Muda selima naye pafupi. Yeah, so what we are trying to do, it means the individual's state of mind is in anxiety mode, right? And therefore, an individual must be taken through certain steps to relax that condition of the individual. And also, it does help that individual to start concentrating to bring about the consciousness that we mentioned earlier on. So sometimes when we talk about somebody being hypnotized, you are brought into a state of unconsciousness by deliberately, so that you are not able to understand what is happening around you. That's what happens. And as I said, please don't quote me anywhere. Prophets actually use this type of technique to make sure that your consciousness is blurred and you have the unconsciousness, and you can act the way those instructions come in. I'm sure I can tell you, I've seen some media issues on the prophets. I think you have heard of that. And you know, some and people can do it, actually. That's your mind actually is unconscious and you can do certain things like that. So this is how it is. And usually all these techniques are used because we know that is the fact that as human beings, basically, we all experience different types of emotional difficulties. I'm very, very sure. Nobody can tell me that has never had any emotional episode from at one time or the other. Maybe Isabel. No. You think you have had some? Of course, they're personal to you, can't tell us. Right? So, indeed, all of us go through some of these episodes. Right? And what is important is, are you able to manage those when you are attacked by some of those emotional issues around? Right? What will happen to you if Eric, your father, just gives you a call and says, Eric, yes, but I've disowned you. You're no longer my son. What will you do? Right? How do you feel? Right? Or Brina, your father just says, no. I think now I'm right. You are not my daughter. No, it's up to you to solve this problem. It says, you are not my daughter. I'm suspicious. I think you are not my daughter. Yeah. So you have all these things which can be quite emotional and they can affect an individual's mind and also how you perform. So they can lead to a dysfunctional state. And that's why we always talk about issues of how you can use the psychological, sort of the emotional regulation. And the emotional problems usually are associated with some desirable experiences or life experiences or something like that. I gave an example of a young boy, maybe 12, is raped. As that individual grows to a certain age or so, may start experiencing some emotional problems. The why, why? What happened to me? Why did it happen to me? What could I have done better that time than now? Or whatever, or something like that. So these are become quite serious issues. And we've heard of many family problems. These are common, right? Except that maybe they differ by the degree of intensity of a family problem. Do you think all families have problems? Yes. How? No, it cannot be all families. They have problems. They have problems. No. That's what I say. They arrange. Oh, they arrange. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. It depends on what you mean by problem, right? And why do we say family problem? Based on our social definition of the problem. Why should we call it family problem and not family social problem?
It only affects the people within the family.
So, okay, yeah. So you just call it the family problem because it is a family. And that is a unit, right? We assume it is a unit. So it may not be a unit. There would be father, mother, and children, right? Biological children and children found by accident. Matuwapeza, I don't know the English for anawapeza. How do you call that? Oh, stepchildren, okay, whichever it is. That is a unit, but it would be disturbed by the arrangement, right? By your biological and the stepchildren and whatever. They can bring a lot of problem within. And they can create a lot of friction between the mother and the father and whatever it is and something like that. I'm sure at one point the father may say, meaning the children, if we found them with the lady, or vice versa. And that can bring that type of mistrust, right? And conflict and some friction in the family. Even at workplaces, we have problems, I'm sure, right? And in the university, here we don't have problems. Students, what problems do you have? That can bring an emotional, whatever. What?
Lack of money.
Lack of money.
Yeah. For example, school fees.
Okay, so we have quite a lot of these issues which actually can bring about these types of problems around. So if you have a severe problem, then there's the issue of anxiety, issues of depression, and also how you get affected in your own functionality, right? And also there are some situations which actually these situations are supposed to be addressed through psychotherapy, because that is where they would be able to be understood better. Now, I used there psychotherapy and counseling. Why? Going back to where we started somewhere. Why did I use it to and not one?
Just because you're checking on his situation, you're trying to prevent that problem
Mm-hmm. Why did I use this? No. I use this because I said, this one is preventive, this one is curative. Right? You see now. So there are problems which may manifest in a manner that only require prevention, right? And those that will require actual treatment. This is how I brought this here. Let me now try to look at, like all other social sciences and particularly biology, whatever it is. I just want to bring in a few things that you understand. What is it that we are looking at? You look at the definition, meaning it really moves from, it oscillates based on how an individual understands it and how they are applied. Sometimes the definitions are application related or defined based on the situation or something like that. So here, you find that we have this gentleman called Warburg. It's quite an old definition. Looks at psychotherapy as the treatment by psychological means of problems of an emotional nature in which a trained person who is a psychotherapist deliberately establishes a professional relationship with the patient. And you remember, in counseling too, we talked about establishing a professional relationship, right? Why? You find that those principles we use in counseling will also be principles which can apply to psychotherapy, right? Acceptance, confidentiality. And actually in psychotherapy, you have deeper need for confidentiality. In counseling, you may look at issues from very broad manner, but in psychotherapy, you will go deep into an individual, real deep into an individual's mind, deep into an individual's condition, which sometimes is supposed to be purely personal. And there, issues of confidentiality becomes key. And here, our Warburg continues to state that it is necessary because we want to remove, retard, or modify existing symptoms. And also, we want to sort the issue of individual pattern behavior, another disturbed pattern behaviors, and also the issue of how you can bring about consciousness in an individual by promoting the positive personality. So this is how this could be looked at. Okay. He's praying. She's tired. Good. Let's move on. Can we? Oh. And our other gentleman here, Frederick Eden, you can see it's quite old, has defined it as the treatment of disorders of the mind or personality by psychological. So here, this is where, yes, please. No, it belongs to everybody. But at least you still know that if it misses, the cameras have captured you with it. Yeah. So here, what Isabella mentioned earlier on, I gave you a question that can you use psychotherapy on a physically challenged individual? She said no, and in the end she said yes. This is what it is. You can use it on an individual's mind to address disorder or the psychological in nature or psychophysiological. In other words, there's the psychology behind every disability that an individual has. And actually, most of those people are psychologically and highly affected. People who have a physical disability or physical challenge, right? Usually they're psychologically very disturbed because they cannot function the way they are supposed to do and therefore react, and their behavior sometimes become quite crude. So this is what we're trying to say here. Now, psychotherapy can still be used to address the mind of an individual as a physical disability, so that you can modify his thinking about the condition in which that individual is in, and also see how that individual, by modifying the thinking and behavior of that individual should attain functionality as it were. And also, as I think I've tried to explain here, where this technique can also apply to rehabilitation. I mentioned about individuals with disabilities or with mental disabilities, for example. So you can see how it is. We know that individuals in this state, usually have an anxiety and they are highly depressed because of their condition. So you indeed can use this approach. Can we move on? Next time, what we're going to do is, when we meet next, I'll bring a basket. Yeah. So we can leave our phones in a basket after that, and then everybody can peel his phone as well. Right? Because we are talking, town guys on the phone. We don't have a phone. No, it's this one, not you. But sometimes you are on the phone. All right. So to wind up for today, we find that to summarize, physiotherapy is a process which attempts to help the patient or individual to relieve some symptoms or resolve some problems. Even seek personal growth is possible. Seeking personal growth, how you can build your self-awareness, how you can realize self-esteem, and also how you can manage your own relationships, things like those. Samantha. But business should not be done. That's it. No, next time I think we'll leave that basket will be left outside at the door. I think that will be better. Huh? Okay, down here. Okay, right. So that's what it is. When we talk about personal growth, it's about how an individual can grow in terms of managing the emotions of that particular individual, and also by way of improving his cognitive and also how we can realize self-awareness. So here you find that it becomes very, very systematic in that therapy basically is about how you communicate, right? And that helps you to actually provide that type of assistance as it were. And here they can help to relieve symptoms as I mentioned, and in the process you find that that individual's behavior has been modified and they can live something which we would call normal life. Can we close? Yeah, when we meet next Tuesday, no, next Wednesday.
We are meeting next.
No, but I will meet you next week. Okay. So you don't know how? All right. Okay. All right. I'll be talking to you. That's okay. That's emotional. No, just Taonga Wapuriga will meet next week. Okay. All right. So here, some of these are the goals which I've been looking at, and we've covered quite a lot of these things around. We've looked at this, that, as you can see. But talking about individual behavior patterns, which are maladaptive, and how do you bring them to normal functionality? Issues of personal relationships, for example. How do you manage your relationships, right? It is a psychological issue. Because Gilbert, if tomorrow or today you get a friend, tomorrow you break up, another day another friend you break up, there must be a problem with you or with the friends that you choose. Or you choose them because you want to benefit from them for some reason also, right? And also there will be the issue of issues of that lack of self-awareness. How you can really help an individual to do that? And sometimes we have our own conflicts in the mind. It's possible, right? Yeah, you don't know what to do. You're so confused. And this type of therapy can actually help you. Issues of ego. People just feel they're challenged, but you can help an individual to build his ego. And also, I think the issue of positive attitude. Are you positive about yourself? These are some of the things that become important. And also, you can correct what we call the psychopathology of an individual. The psychopathology is something which is pertains to an individual's mental or social disorders, for example. That's psychopathology, where an individual is not able to manage his social being or his mental being, and in other words, is behaving contrary to our expectations. That becomes our psychopathology. And also, there are quite a number of issues. The issue of inner conflicts. Have we ever had inner conflicts? Inner conflicts leads to what?
Stress.
To stress? Okay, it can lead to that, but also on issues of problem solving, right? Or decision making. There are people who cannot make decisions. Is it possible to have an individual who can't make a decision? So what do they do? What would they be doing if they can't make a decision?
What they are doing is the decision.
I like that. What they are doing is a decision. They decide that they need and counseling. Yes, the issue of guidance and counseling comes in. Somebody has no idea what he wants to do, right? So that can come in form of guidance and counseling. Yes, you are right. And also, I thought about the issue of self-identity. What is self-identity, Eric? Self-identity.
Identity.
Mm-hmm.
How you identify yourself and then
No, it's also the issue of strengths and weaknesses. It's possible. Your self-identity is you, who you are, what you are, and what you can do, and manage to do. Right? So we'll stop here, and we'll continue. See, after 2 weeks. No, I also miss my village. I think I should go to the village.